What's up, viewers, and welcome to another episode of Cheers Reviews. I'm your host, Jimmy, and today we're talking about the Ibanez Talman TMB100 Bass. Although the Talman shape has been around since the 90s, it was only in 2015 that we started to see the Ibanez Talman basses come to the surface. Today, we have the 2020 version Ibanez TMB100 Talman Bass in mustard yellow flat. And I'm not 100% sure what I think about the whole thing, but hopefully by the end of this episode, I would have made up my mind. Coming out of the Ibanez factory in Indonesia, the Ibanez Talman bass is a very eye-catching, unique, and seemingly versatile bass setup. Jumping into specs, we've got a poplar body, an unfinished maple neck, maple fretboard with black dot inlays, an Ibanez B10 bridge, vintage style tuners, and Ibanez P&J Dynamics pickups. These are controlled with an onboard active preamp with a 2-band EQ, all controlled by 2 stacked dials. Now, these took a little bit of playing around with to work out, but the dials closest to the neck, the top dial is the master volume, the below dial switches between the 2 pickups, and with the dials closest to the bridge, the top dial is the treble EQ, and the bottom dial is the bass EQ. So with the EQ dials, if you turn them in a clockwise direction all the way to the right, you get a boost. If you turn them anti-clockwise all the way to the left, you get a cut. And there's a handy bump in the middle, so you know when the EQ is flat. Although the dials do work fine, I did find that they were a bit counterintuitive, and if I was in the midst of being on stage, I might find myself a little bit confused and a little bit flustered. But then again, it could just be me. I don't have a whole lot of active basses anyway, but it might be okay for you. I do really like the flat finish color on the bass, especially in this wacky mustard yellow. When I bought this bass, there was a division amongst the staff members at the shop whether or not they liked the color. And it was a really love-hate scenario with all of them, and I can kind of see why. But hey, I think it's rad, especially with the red tortoise pickguard and the maple neck. I just think it looks really cool. Another thing I'm a massive fan of is the shape of the headstock and the placement of the tuners. I think it's super unique and it's actually pretty easy to use. When I first saw photos of this bass, for some reason I envisioned that it was going to have heaps of neck dive, but I was pleasantly surprised to find that it sits really nicely on my lap, and I think that's possibly due to the design of the headstock. Anyway, I'm keen to have a jam, so without much further ado, let's see how it sounds. let me know what you thought in the comments below. I love how versatile this bass is. There are just so many sounds that you can get out of the P&J Ibanez Dynamics pickups. Funnily enough, my favorite tones were actually when the preamp was flat. I almost would have preferred if they just made it a straight passive bass like the TMB30. I mean, look, overall, it's a really enjoyable bass to play, and I don't want to sound harsh, but it's not the best active preamp. It certainly doesn't hold a candle to the active preamp that they use in their sound gear range, just as an example. Another thing worth mentioning is that the unfinished neck does feel quite dry, and for anyone that's watched my reviews on the Squier Classic Vibe range would know that I love gloss necks, but this one does feel a little bit on the rough side. And over time this might smooth out, but out of the box it might feel a little bit uncomfortable under your hands. Honestly, it's not really a deal breaker. Overall, I think it's a super unique, versatile, and pretty eye-catching bass. So go check with your local dealer for pricing, but I found that most commonly online, these go for about 463 Aussie dollary dues, which is pretty good value. Anyway, thank you so much for coming along today to check out the Ibanez TMB100 Talman Bass. If you liked today's video, please give me a thumbs up. It's how I know that I'm doing a good job. And if you want to see weekly bass-related content, go ahead and smash that subscribe button. But until next week, keep on rocking, and I'll see you next time.